sheikh that owns the funeral home. I used to work for him at a clinic. I, my family, they weren't Muslims. I think a lot of us came to the Deen, Alhamdulillah. So it was about 6 months after I became Muslim. Um, I was trying to get more into, Islam, learn more, and do more. And Alhamdulillah, the Sheikh noticed it, and he gave me the advice. He said, uh, doing this kind of job brings you closer to Allah. It gives you closeness with Allah. It makes you more aware of the beauty of the life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Um, and he recommended, but he also advised, it's not something that it's, so to say, for the faint-hearted, because you see a lot of things when you deal with death, right? It's never just a normal someone passed away. You get all kinds of things. So he advised, but it strengthens your iman. And Alhamdulillah, it did. I'm living proof of it. Um, it actually did. So I took his offer up. Alhamdulillah, he opened this location in New Jersey. I was living in New York at that time. And Alhamdulillah, as I started to work, I worked with other brothers, and start to experience more and start to see more and learn more. It brings you closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another thing that this kind of work does, it makes you aware of what you're doing, right? As per when we're doing something wrong, we know we're doing something wrong. But when you see death constantly and you do something wrong, it makes you want to fix it right away. You don't want to delay on it, right? Because you know that your time is coming. This is the beauty of doing this kind of service. And Alhamdulillah, Imam Sahib, he invited me. And I would like to encourage everyone to at least do it once. Go and wash a body once at least. It will make you appreciate having the life that you have right now, but it will also fix you. It will make you think twice before doing certain things, right? Every son of Adam is sinful, right? We all commit sins. Whether it's hidden sins or open sins, we all are sinners. But this, being aware, right, and this really makes you aware of death, seeing it. We all see people come and go, but when you're actually firsthand dealing with it, it makes you more, aware of things, aware of yourself, aware of your surroundings. For example, I have did ghusls with other brothers and end up washing the brothers that washed with me. Right. Such is life. Right? And that could have been me. It could have been them washing me. And one day it will be that way. The brothers that I'm washing with, they will be washing me one day. So this is life. Right? We have to, as believers, we have to live like we're just traveling. So inshallah, I brought some things. I would like to, teach as much as possible, the process of the janaza, the ghusl, step by step. I'm here for any questions, that anyone would like to ask. I'm open to it. Any question. Okay, inshallah. So I'll start by showing you the basic wraps. The shrouds, we call it coffins, right? So for the men, we have three. Let me see how to work this.
Help you out.
Inshallah. Good. Inshallah. So for the men, we have 3 wraps. For the women, we have 5 wraps. For the men, there's the two lifafas, which is the big sheets, and we have the kameez, which is like the shirt. It covers from the neck down to the ankles. For the sisters, we have the same, but they carry a hijab and a cinnabon, which wraps the breast area. So I brought one set just to show. An example. I had a janaza earlier today, so I grabbed so this is the kameez. This is like the shirt part. So it doesn't have to be specifically like a shirt. We also have some brothers just use three long sheets, which is fine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is the kameez. This is gonna be if Allah's mercy is on us, this will wrap us. There's many Muslims who don't get this. I've seen it during COVID as well. We had to just do the burial in the body bag, no wraps. Right? So with Allah's mercy, inshallah, we will be wrapped. Inshallah. So this covers the back area. It's a little shorter on the back, but it's long on the front. So it covers from the neck to the ankle. So this is both male and female. If you notice, this has no markings. This has no stitchings. It's just a piece of cloth.
Right.
You came naked, you'll leave naked.
Right.
Right? When you were born, the doctor wrapped you in a cloth. And when you go, we will wrap you in a cloth as well. Right? It's like for most of us, as we get older, because I've watched teenagers, babies. As we get older, it's like we grow down, right? As an infant, you can't talk, you can't walk, you can't do anything yourself. As you get older and older, these things happen, right? And old age, alhamdulillah, is a mercy from Allah Ta'ala.
Yes, sir.
Right? So it's the same thing. As you get older, these things go away, right? Your hearing, your speech, your feet, your energy to do anything yourself, you know? You have to be fed. These things happen. So just as you came in, the doctor wrapped you. As you go out, you'll be wrapped again.
Brother Ishmael, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Now that cloth,
Mhm.
you said if you're fortunate, if you're blessed by Allah, you get that. That's true. That cloth is no stitching or nothing on that cloth. Is that
No,
correct?
it's just plain.
Right. Okay.
It's just plain.
Okay.
Right? And these are the big sheets.
Right.
You know, when you see the janaza or you see video on YouTube, these are the sheets you usually see, the outside sheets.
Right.
Right.
So these sheets, they're a little longer than the casket,
Right.
right? So when the body goes in, this wraps the body. This is just the half of it. It opens wider,
Right.
but just for the detailing of it. And as you see again, no stitches,
Right.
no writing, no Gucci, no Louis Vuitton,
Yes, sir.
right? It's just a plain sheet,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the box will be a plain box,
Right.
right? Some of us, we won't be in a box. We'll be placed in the ground, which is the best way.
Mm-hmm.
But due to where we live, there's some restrictions,
Yes.
um, you know, laws,
Yeah.
which we have to follow.
Yes, sir.
So these are the basic shrouds. When the sisters are wrapped, there's the cinnabon, which wraps the upper section,
Right.
and the hijab,
Right.
right? So the sister is 5, the brother is 3. For kids as well, the same thing. If it's a girl and she hasn't reached the age of maturity, she gets the plain 3 wraps. Doesn't need the single bun. Okay, so a few things. When doing the ghusl, it's similar to how we would do a ghusl as we're alive. So we start with the wudu. We start with the right side. Then we do the left side. Start with the right hand, left hand. But we don't pour the water, when it comes to the nose and the mouth, we don't pour the water into the body cavity. We try to use Q-tips and cotton,
Right.
right?
Right.
Pouring the water into the body isn't what makes the process complete. Wetting the areas makes the process complete, right? It's like when you do wudu, right? If a spot is dry, the wudu is invalid.
Right.
Everything has to be wet. So it's about getting the areas wet, because for the deceased, sometimes it's a lot of blood,
Yes.
a lot of things are coming up,
Right.
and you can only stop so much.
Right.
And as Muslims, we shouldn't probe to fix something because we want people to see, to basically make ourselves feel good,
Right.
right? What we're doing, we're fulfilling one of the last rites of the Mayat, the dead Muslims. So we should do our best without going to the extreme, the stitching,
Yes.
these things are a bit extreme.
Yes.
And I don't want to get into too much detail, but it becomes gruesome. If you go to a non-Muslim funeral home, you'll understand the difference.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, even as a dead Muslim, we have respect for the body.
Yes, sir.
This is a gift from Allah Ta'ala. Right? So we don't see a dead body and say, oh, he's just dead. No problem, we could break an arm, we can stitch, we can cut. We don't see that. We see this is a human being, whether it's a Muslim or not.
Right.
Muslims are taught to respect the dead because it's still a creature of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So the ghusl, after we do the wudu, we do the ghusl. We start by washing the right side of the body 3 times on the top. Right? We wash 3 times, and then we tilt the body. When we tilt the body, we wash the back of the body 3 times. But before we wash the body, we do the extension. We wash the private areas. Ideally, it's best to sit the mayat up and press on the stomach,
Right.
so any excess filth comes out.
Right.
Ideally, because some situations the body is too stiff to do this.
Right.
So if the body is, we try first.
Okay.
If the body is too stiff to move, because we usually get this done within the same day the person passed, or we try to get it done at least the next day, unless there's some technicality going on, with the laws, or if there's
Okay.
investigations,
Making it clear.
right? So we should get it done as soon as possible. So when the person passes away, the body tends to stiffen up. So if we get it very early, the body may not sit up when we sit it up to press on the stomach. In this case, we just do it as the body is laying there. We just press lightly on the stomach, not to squeeze, but just to get the excess out. So, question?
Yeah. You're mentioning the wudu of the body, preparing the body, and my question is basically is this in a morgue or is this at the funeral home?
So okay, the difference there, right? The difference, the morgue is where they keep dead bodies.
Yes.
Right? The funeral home is different. Most funeral homes does not have a cold storage. They have embalming.
Yeah, no reason why I
Which-
said that
yeah.
because I know that like you said, the undertaker, because of the license or a certain person with a license, can have the body released to them right away.
Right.
So that's why I asked,
So-
is it either here or there?
Right. So Alhamdulillah, we're working for a fully licensed Muslim funeral.
Alhamdulillah.
So it's released to you right away
Yes,
anyway.
Yes.
See,
Alhamdulillah, yes. That was a very good question. You know why? Because many masjids have like a prep room, but they're not actually a licensed funeral home. They have to get a funeral director from outside to actually
Okay.
get that body, and that may be a problem as well.
Okay.
That
I'm
may
just
be
saying,
a
just for the
problem.
little understanding.
Right,
I
right,
know.
right. Yes.
Okay.
Right. So the morgue is where they store the bodies. Yeah, like the hospitals, they have the morgues.
Yeah.
So we would pick the bodies up from the morgues.
Right away.
Cold storage, it's very expensive. The hospital actually have freezers,
I
right? Yeah,
understand.
and the bodies actually get frozen. Like,
Well, you mentioned, like you said, the stiffness and moving them,
yes,
and by you mentioning that when you pushing down to, like you said, to remove any waste product, or
Right.
even like you said with the cotton or the stuff nose, or even make sure there's nothing
Right.
in these cavities,
yes,
or could come back in the fluids because the body still has fluid.
yes. So-
It just adds up to
Right, right.
a little more.
So if we pick the body up within a day or two, it's not going to be fully frozen. It's just going to be cold, right? Because sometimes the hospital holds the body. And take note, it's very important that when you go to the hospital, you know what you're signing. Because you actually, by default, you sign that you're giving them permission to take your organs. By default.
I thought that even though if the person had a will, the hospital can't violate it until they find out for sure.
So
That's
ideally, it
Uh-huh.
would work that way. But
okay.
there's there's a thing called sharing network. This is the people who come and collect organs and bones and tissues,
Okay,
right?
break it down.
So what will happen is the person who was admitted to a hospital, when they sign these paperwork, the paperwork, what will happen is that if they sign off on it, they contact sharing network. So before a will even gets involved, shared network is there,
I'm running right.
just right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And unfortunately, New Jersey is a state that if you collapse outside, by default, they'll do an autopsy on you. It doesn't matter your religious component. By default, the state says if you die, yes.
Finish that, excuse me, finish that sentence right there.
Yeah.
The state said
By
what?
the by default in New Jersey, if someone passes away unexpectedly, they just, let's say someone is walking and they just collapse. They'll do an autopsy on the body.
Without notification of anybody.
They don't have to notify anyone by default because now it's a criminal investigation, right? This is one thing. The second thing is if it is a criminal situation, for example, you're working in a convenience store, right? Someone walks in and shoots you in the head. They'll still do an autopsy. Even though they know the bullet in your head killed you, they'll still, by default.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's very distasteful, but
I remember one time individuals carried a card saying my organs and nothing cannot be donated with them in their wallet, whatever. I remember this.
yes, I carry something in my wallet too. Because,
No, I'm just saying. I
yeah.
remember that the individuals to have cards.
Yes.
Do not should take no organs
Right.
in his body,
So
whatever.
I'll advise you guys what to do
Uh-huh.
to prevent that from happening.
Brother, I have a question.
Yes, brother. Okay, so even if they see that this is a robbery, they see the cameras, they see the person got shot in their head, they will still do an autopsy. It's people need jobs,
Yeah, that's about
right? People need jobs, so
We gonna have to-
Now, would you say that the mortuary industry is a lucrative industry to get into? Would you recommend it for the youth, in other words?
okay. So it's a very good question, right? It is lucrative if you're an owner of the business.
Thank you.
Right? I'll tell you why. The rate of suicide among funeral directors is very high. It is not, okay, think about this. One of your family members passed away. Imagine how that impacted you. Now imagine this on a daily basis, right? This is what happens to you. Many times I've buried babies, children,
Yes.
and I feel it. You know, I'm crying there. How can I say, oh, I'm gonna be professional and not cry? I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I'm a human being. I'm gonna feel it. You know, so this is what happens. And many people that I went to school with, non-Muslims, they like, you know, I had 2 funerals today. I'm going for a drink after this class, and this is how they sober up themselves. This is how they comfort themselves.
Right.
But we have Islam, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Right? So we don't look at the dead the way they look at the dead. Right?
Good, you can finish your sentence.
We see it as a source of reward.
Yes.
They don't see it that way.
Right.
Right? And the honest truth is that to do this work, you have to actually want to do this. You have to go into this, you know, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you won't be able to do it. It's very hard to deal with these things. Especially the COVID situation happened. Nobody was expecting that. I was doing 30 burials a day. Imagine that.
Wow.
30 bodies. In the very beginning, the ulamas, they didn't pass the rule to just do burials. They say wash the bodies. We were the only funeral home washing the bodies. Everybody was like, you guys are crazy. It's not that you're crazy. You can't just do your own thing.
Right.
That's why Islam
We have
has rules.
We have rules.
And I'm telling you, I was petrified. Because I had to do it. Right? Somebody had to do it.
Right.
The
Yes.
families wasn't coming. They were like, nope, we don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So, and people ask how you did it, how you did it. I wasn't doing it for money. You know, I had to do it because nobody else wanted to do it.
No way, bro.
It's a handful of brothers that was actually washing bodies. Not many. And I'm telling you, it was sleepless nights. Because the calls would just come in, back to back. And we had to do it. We had to help.
Right.
Some countries, they were not even allowing anyone to touch the body. They had their own special people that came in their suits, and they would bury the bodies, and that was it.
Yeah.
No janazah, no nothing.
Right.
But alhamdulillah, this is why we have rules in Islam. So you can't make your own things up. You can't say, I'm not going to wash this body.
Alhamdulillah.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Why the striding for the woman 5, and then for a little girl is 3, and then for the male is 2?
For the male, it's 3.
It's 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So
why
everyone,
is it-
right. So everyone all across the board gets the 2 lifafas, which is the big sheets that covers the body, that you usually would see like on a video or something. And they also get the shirt, which is the kameez. The sisters gets the sinabun, which covers the breast area.
Right.
Remember, this is just my humble opinion. It's white. The cloth is white. So I'm thinking, I have to check. I'm thinking that the ladies get that extra cover just to protect them, because white, even though this is thick and you can't see through this, I believe that maybe it's to protect them from, you know, because even when a woman just puts a shirt on and nothing under it, you can see her.
Right.
So
Okay.
I believe that's why she has that extra layer to cover her up, even though, you know. Right. So this is my humble opinion.
Yeah, I
This
understand.
this is not something,
Sharia.
right?
Right.
Yes.
One more question, excuse me. The Muslim, we went to a janazah, not a janazah, a funeral. You know, a young brother had got shot. We went to a funeral to pay our respects. You know, 'cause we know him. So this is the first time in my life I ever been to a what you call that? It was a mausoleum. They call it a mausoleum. Now, you know, do you understand that? I mean, what is?
Yes.
That's un-Islamic, right?
It's very un-Islamic. Allah Ta'ala, from the Quran, from the beginning of time, Qabil and Abil, right? Killed his brother. He didn't know what to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent two birds. One killed one, dug a hole, buried it. Right? And Allah explains in the Quran, this is how we bury it, what we do with the dead. Right? Allah Ta'ala has given the human being so much respect. You walk down the street, you'll see a dead bird, you'll see a dead cat, a dead dog, but you won't see a dead human and leave it. Why? Even the kuffars won't see a human and leave it to just rot and go bad. Because Allah Ta'ala has risen the ranks of mankind. So, with that being said, the mausoleum is completely forbidden because they don't bury. They put you in a box and shove you in the wall. That's what they do.
That's what it is.
Put you in a bag.
Yeah,
to
so you
keep
don't
the
leak.
Smell. The
Yeah,
smell.
you don't smell, you don't leak. They just seal you up and shove you in the wall. You know, and people see this as like a good thing. This is not good, right? Right? This is why we came from the earth. We will return to the earth, and then Allah Ta'ala will bring us back from this same earth. Yes, sister.
With regard to the organ donation, I know that doing janaza or funeral is expensive. And I knew of one of my cousins, she used to take care of an old lady. The lady lived to be 100. Then her family, had a funeral for her. They made arrangements for her organs to be donated to a school, and in return for the organ donation to the school, they were reimbursed the cost of the funeral. Is that something that would be un-Islamic to do? And do you know if it's done in this area, if it's legal, or how
Okay.
arrangements were made for that?
Before I go answer your question, I just have one quick question. How much was like the reimbursement?
It was covered the whole cost of the entire funeral.
Right, you don't
I
have a
don't know the
ballpark.
exact dollar amount,
Okay.
but I would say somewhere near 10,000 or more.
Okay. 10,000, whoa. Okay, Alhamdulillah. As Muslims, we have simple burials. Simple burials.
Very simple.
Sheets, we don't do embalmings. Funeral homes, they make money off two things. Embalming a body. Right? Embalming can be very expensive. Especially if it's a good embalmer, they'll charge you really, like probably half the funeral price. That's the embalming.
Wow, okay.
Right. Remember earlier I said some funeral homes, most of them don't have a cold storage.
Right.
Right? So they embalm the body so the body can last. And
Okay.
outside of Islam, people usually wait 2 weeks, a week to get everyone together.
Right.
It's a slow process. So they need to embalm. So this is why that's a lucrative thing to do. There's some funeral directors that only do embalmings. And they make a lot of money from it.
Okay.
So around 10,000 is very pricey, right? Coming from a non-Muslim funeral. So in Islam, alhamdulillah, we're so simple. Our funerals cost between 3,000 to 4,000. Before they did this price hike on everything, it was about $2,200 to $2,500. 26 like max. But the price of wood is expensive now. To ship the wood in is expensive. The gas is up, so we had to adjust. So
Right.
we can, but we're only between $3,000 to $4,000. So it's fairly I won't say it's like completely cheap, but it's fairly decent,
Right.
The non-Muslims, I've seen 100,000 funerals, $100,000 funerals,
Yes, sir.
$50,000, right? But for me, as a personal thing, I don't think any kind of reimbursement would be satisfaction to do something like that. This is called legal mutilation
Okay.
because they're legally doing it. So there's some new rules from Sharia, different different ulamas. But I follow the old school. If you're not gonna do it while you're alive, don't do it while you're dead. If you're not gonna donate your organs while you're living, don't do it while you're dead. Because in Islam we have this belief that the dead person still can feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? So imagine opening someone's head, taking their brain, opening their chest. This is
Yeah.
a bit extreme, you know. So I would suggest never do these kind of things. You know?
And I just wanna say, Brother Ishmael, it's funny you say that because there's a big market for organ.
A very big
Very
market
big
for
market
organs.
for organs.
Yeah, very big market.
And they are profiting off what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created naturally, taking
There we
organs
go.
from dead people, which is really
There
an
we go.
abomination, but I understand what you're saying.
Yes, yes. So for me, it's you know, like I explained, there's two ulamas. One said it's okay to do some donation. The other one says stay away from it. I prefer to stay away from it because you know I do this job, and some brothers come in. You know, like last summer there was a lot of crime in Newark. Kids, 17, 16. I was the one that did the janazas. I watched them, and I see how that the the medical examiner. I see how they cut them up. They open them. They open the head. You know, I can look at the body and see the bullet went here. This bullet killed them. Why do we have to do all of this
Yes, sir.
examination?
Yes, sir.
You know, but people need jobs,
Yes.
right?
I wanted to ask you, so do you recommend, I mean, like while you got the money, to go ahead and get all this stuff now and have it, you know, get the will and everything, get all that there straightened out, you know, while we are healthy and had the money,
Yes.
or either start
Right.
saving on it, you know, because I know I was going to do that about 5 years ago, because I didn't have any insurance right at the time, right? And when my partner, when he had passed away, it shocked me, you know what I'm saying? You know, 'cause I thought we was gonna be here till we was old,
Right.
you know? And it shocked me, and he had money, but he didn't have money. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right, yeah,
like he was
yeah.
on the road a lot
I
of
understand the
time.
situation.
Yeah, he had money,
Yeah,
but he
I
didn't
see
have
this
money.
happening. I see this
Yeah.
happening in
And
many.
you know,
this happens a lot.
and we
More
had
than
to
you
do,
would
we had
know.
to do what you call that? GoFundMe. We
Yeah.
had to do that, and it was like embarrassing
Subhanallah.
because he
Right.
drove a, you know what I'm saying, S500.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, he had the baddest clothes.
Right,
You
right.
know what I'm saying? You know, and kept a knot. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, but when it came down to it, he really ain't had no money. You know what
Right,
I'm saying?
right.
You know, and it was bad. So that's what made me call sister, go see Sister Khadijah.
Right.
And I went to see her, and she gave me this here place, a phone number, and I called them. I had insurance right then and there, right there.
Yeah.
It activated right then and there.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot. It was $20,000, but it activated. I ran it out for 5 years. Then I said to myself, man, you know, and then things got rough in my business.
Right.
And the price, you know, they wasn't paying right. So I said to myself, well, man, all that money I paid down, I could have done bought everything I needed already. You know what I'm saying?
So this is a thing about insurance as well. That money that you're gonna be paying into insurance, this is why they say stay away from it, because
That's right.
you lost that money.
Yeah.
Where's
yeah,
that money now?
Yeah.
Right. So my advice is that 20,000, you think to yourself how much I was paying, and put that aside.
Right. It
Put
did
that
take a
aside.
lot of discipline too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had an experience with a friend of mine, and, you know, he was up in his 80s, and he was no family that I was aware of. And I wanted to make sure, because I've seen people pass away, and everybody's looking around like, well, who's gonna pay for the funeral, what, you
Right.
know? So I had a friend that was a funeral director, and I asked him. He said there was something called a revocable trust, where it's in the name of the person that might pass away, but it's also in the name of the funeral home that you want to
Right.
handle the body.
Right.
But it's a state of New Jersey trust fund that is revocable if, you know, 10 years down the road, you say, hey, wait a minute,
I'm still
I'm gonna
alive.
take that money out, I
Right.
need it for something else. You could take it out.
Yes.
But in the meantime, if it's in the trust fund, if anything happens to you, you pass away, the
It's
funeral
taken care
home
of.
gets the money directly, and it's still your money.
Right.
You didn't pay it to the insurance and it's poof, gone.
Right.
It's still your money.
So there's something called a pre-need
Mhm.
with the funeral homes, right? The pre-need is that you pay, you cover your funeral while you're alive. The pre-need does not go up, it does not change, you know, 10 years from now, this 3 to 4,000 may become 10,000. You see the way things are right now. So 10 years from now, that's what it may be. So if you pay this $3,000 now, in 10 years, your funeral will still be
the same.
$3,000.
Right.
All right,
So this is a pre-need.
right.
So
Yeah.
this is a
That
good
we
thing to
did.
do.
We did
right?
that before.
3 things we should do, right? Use your youth, use your health, use your wealth while you can,
Yes, sir.
right? This goes back to the story you was explaining. The brother had money, and he, you know, but then when he passed away, right, it was kind of a embarrassing thing to gather up to pay the funeral. So the pre-need is beneficial in this kind of way.
In certain cases.
Yes.
No,
Right.
no, and I understood what you said,
Right.
and I want to make sure we get this correct,
Mm-hmm.
because I think people still should have insurance. I'm not saying it's not a robbery thing. What I'm
Right.
saying about insurance is, it's a set number if you put in it. They got what they call whole life, and they got another one. But if you're putting in small amounts, what the most whole life policies are, but it's like you said, the policy is not only for your cover your debt.
Right.
If you're looking at what I'm saying, that same low number in the long run, because people say, why you do certain things?
Right.
I said, because the policy number is only for this amount.
Right.
If it costs this much to bury me, say it costs $5,000 to bury me,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the policy for $15,000.
Right.
The 10,000 is under my children name.
Right. So how?
So they
insurance-
have something to work with
Right.
if they in crisis.
Right.
See, it's not about how much, and say, how much you put in it? Oh, I only give them $50 a month. $50 a month is not gonna add up to $15,000
Right.
in 15 years.
Right.
It may take 25 years
Right.
to get the $15,000.
Some, excuse me, some of them insurance companies, right, they, see, it's, you
No,
gotta
like
really
I said,
be careful
everything
with the
is-
insurance
no,
companies.
everything
Some
is a
of them
different
don't wanna
policy.
pay out.
No, no.
You got
what-
some insurance companies don't wanna pay out when the time comes.
yeah, no,
Right.
no,
People
like I
have
said,
problems with it.
yes.
So this is why
You're correct. You're correct.
this is why you have to, right, insurance policies, you have to really read through it, because some insurance policies require you to have an autopsy when you pass.
Wow.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay.
Right? They require
Right,
this.
right.
So you have to look at, you have to balance it out, right? And we may say, oh, when that time reaches,
That's why I said when you each thing is different for
Right.
for what it is.
right? So,
Because they, like you said, they have 2 different ones when you use insurance companies. But
Right.
it's just like, I work for the city of New York, and if something happened to me at work,
right,
regardless of what, they want an investigation.
right,
And it would be, like you said, a big holdup if they don't get the investigation. They can't, if it happened to me at work. Why? Because they require by law to pay.
so you gotta ask yourself if it's something.
No, I'm
you're
just
willing
saying,
to
it's no,
risk, right?
it's not,
Yeah.
I don't even have no choice
Right,
in that
right.
manner. If
Right.
something happened at work, like, say I get electrocuted or something.
Right, so
No,
in
no,
that,
I'm just
yeah,
saying,
that's a good thing you
they-
brought up, right?
They
So-
can't stop saying, oh, no, we got to verify that
Right.
the person was electrocuted.
Right, right,
No, only because we have to pay out regardless of what.
right. It's a requirement by your job to have that insurance.
Yeah, they got
So-
put their little insurance in,
Right. So in
regardless
that
if we want.
situation, this is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
And if something happens like that, we believe that Allah isn't gonna punish you. Right? This is beyond your
No,
will to do.
like you said,
Right.
it's just that's the extra that
Right,
you're
right.
not looking for, but it happened.
Right.
Yeah, there are 2 types of insurance.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
There is whole life insurance,
Right.
and then there's term insurance.
Right.
Whole life grows as you put in it, it matures.
Right.
When it completely matures, you can have you can take all that money that you put into it, you can take it out.
Take it out.
Because it matures with interest.
Right.
Then with term is usually a big payout.
Right.
However, it shrinks as time
time
goes
goes.
on.
Right.
Okay, and so at the end of the term, it has really disappeared.
Right. Right.
You know,
And plus, if
those
you
are the
stop
differences
paying
between.
on it,
It's
then
So-
if you stop paying on the policy,
it's
it's
gone.
gone.
Right.
there's nothing there to collect back
That's right.
with the term.
With
The
the
whole
term.
life is different. You can get something back, but
That's right. As a matter of fact, after a while, you're able to even take a loan out
Yeah.
on a whole life
yep.
Right,
insurance. With term, that's shrinking.
right, right.
But like you said, when you start having that policy with the funeral parlor, is
Right.
very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
So you can, so with that situation where you pay up front, you sign all the paperwork, and it's out of your hand, this is the best thing to do. Unless you can actually save the money at home, right? Imam, please correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yes, sir.
The reason I advise people to stay away from all kinds of insurance, unless it's necessary. We need health insurance because we can't go to the hospital and pay $12,000,
Oh,
dollars
please, just
for
go
a
in
little,
one
right?
and
So-
$1,500.
and car insurance. You need these things, right? The reason I tell people to avoid these life insurances is because there's a lot of interest.
It's a lot.
Yes, sir.
In the Quran, Allah wages war on those with interest.
Riba.
If you can't, if your hand is tied, like the
Right.
brother explained,
Right,
his job, they're making him, you
Right.
know, this is different.
right.
But insurances, as per my understanding, it's haram.
Yes, sir, it is.
Avoid it.
It's just like the credit cards. It's like, in this country right here,
Right.
it's so
So
much
it-
kufar
it's-
and Islamic practices
They're
that sometimes
designed-
it's hard to escape it.
They're
You know,
they're
so
designing
you
it
gotta really,
exactly.
really have somebody in each ummah
Right.
that can really break that down to a child can understand.
Yes.
You understand what
So-
I'm saying? Because
What the brother is saying, this is a good point because some societies are designed to trap us in this, right?
Yes.
You can't go and buy a car without getting a loan for the
That's
car,
right.
right? And now if you have the money for the car, then they want to investigate you, and
Right.
it's
That's
a
right.
big mess,
It is.
right? So you have to be very careful. You just have to be very careful. At least feel disgusted about these things if you can't do anything about it.
Right.
I understand. I live here too, right? So it's some things we just can't avoid it. We just can't,
Alhamdulillah.
right? How can you go to the hospital without insurance and then get a $50,000 bill because you got a cut and they had to sew it up? How you gonna pay that, right?
Well,
So-
like you said, it's almost there. You tell you got a cut, you paying $5,000 because you went to the hospital.
Right.
So, what?
So yeah, some things is unavoidable. You know, it's designed like this because
Mhm.
of people like us, right? It's designed this way. Even the food we eat, they're putting things and
That's
naming
right,
it differently, right? They'll put a different name. They won't say pork. They'll put something else.
Right.
So it's designed that way. But you know, we make dua. We live in here. We have to adjust. You know, there's leeway for certain things because we can't avoid it.
Yes, sir.
We just can't.
Alhamdulillah.
Right.
Alhamdulillah.
So it's best to do the the pre-need,
No, I agree.
right? You pay on the pre-need while you have it, while you're alive. This way you know, okay. And another thing is like we don't know where we'll die.
That's right.
everybody had that. Every funeral home had that.
A pre-need? Yes.
Yes.
Every funeral home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most funeral homes. It should be every funeral
You
home.
could, how you spell that?
Preneed.
P-R-E.
N-E-E-D.
Need, the word need, N-E-E-D. Like you need something.
Oh,
Yeah.
pre-need.
Yeah.
Need.
Right
And
before
you
need.
pay.
Yes.
You pay like about how much? Like you pay?
You can pay off the whole funeral, which I explained to you. You sit there and you choose what
How
you
much you
want,
wanna-
right?
how
If
much
you
you
want to
wanna
get a
pay.
fancy casket, they'll say, well, this fancy casket costs $12,000.
But we ain't gonna talk about caskets though. We talking about wood. We supposed to have wood, right?
Right. So
Right.
there's
So we don't even want-
oh, you won't believe. You won't believe.
Put like this
You won't
here.
believe what I see, brother.
Yeah, I can imagine
I
what you
see
see,
so
yeah.
many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because we're actually a licensed business, we have to abide by what the family requests.
That's
Wow.
right. That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So
Wow.
two things, you either say something about it or feel disgusted about it,
Alhamdulillah.
right? So they ask, families would ask, is this allowed? I would say no, and then they would still go ahead and do it.
Well, how you stop your family, right? How you stop your family from burying you? You know, cause some brothers, I know you say you did a lot of funerals, so you know, so some brothers that was Muslim and the family buried him as a Christian,
So
You know, how
earlier,
do you stop
I
that?
believe this brother you asked earlier, and I told you there's a way to avoid this being autopsied and so forth.
Right,
So everyone has a bank account.
right,
Most people,
right.
right? The bank does notarizing things for free. If you don't want to go to the bank, go anywhere that notarizes things. It's maybe $4, $3. A simple piece of paper. You just write on there that I'm a Muslim
Right, right.
and I want everything to be handled according to Islam. I do not want an autopsy. I am a Muslim. I lived as a Muslim, and when I die, I will die as a Muslim. Go take your ID, have them certified, keep it in your pocket. I have mine that I walk with. Right?
okay, so I'm gonna do that right away.
Because
I'm gonna
at
do
the
that right away.
at the funerals, the families say, "Oh, he became a Christian again before he died."
Yeah, yeah.
I seen it.
I seen it too.
I've seen it.
I have too.
So while you're alive and they tell you, "Oh, I love you so much, and don't worry, your rights will be given to you. We'll do everything." But when your eyes is closed, it's a different thing.
Yes, sir.
It's a different thing.
That is so true, brother.
With the pre-need arrangement. Now, that means, like, say, if I wanna have pre-need arrangement for my funeral,
Yes.
I come into the funeral home, I sit down, and I go over with you everything that I want done
Yes.
for my funeral.
Yes.
And I sign that,
Yes.
and I pay for it.
Yes.
Now, the money, does that stay with the funeral home, or does
Yes.
that go into a state trust?
So it goes in the funeral home. It's regulated by the state. The funeral home has an account specifically for that. So
Okay,
everything is documented. It's not like 10 years from now, something happens, you lose the money,
Okay.
right? It's just a secure security that you paid already. You signed. Everything is documented and has its file.
okay, so it's in a trust account, joint trust, with the person, the person that might be deceased at one point, and the funeral home.
So I'm not exactly sure on how the accounts are, but I don't think that person has access to the account.
Okay,
The funeral home has access to the account, but the funeral home can't just go and take the money.
Right.
they have to wait.
They have to-
It's only when you pass away.
Yes, they
that
have to have proof that this person actually passed to
Okay.
use that money, the funeral home, because think about how many people would be cheated.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So this is that's why the state it's regulated, right?
Okay,
You have to prove that this person did pass. These are the documents. We have the signed pre-need. Now we need the funds.
okay. Now, the only thing with that, like I said, my friend,
Mhm.
he made the pre-need arrangement. He put the money in that trust fund.
Yes.
It had the funeral home's name and his name on it. It was a revocable trust, so if he decided
Right.
5
Yeah.
years
So
from now
that he wants to take it back.
the
Yes.
money
This
back
is
and
yes.
make different arrangements.
Right. Right.
He
Yes.
could
That's
do
fine.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. I thought you meant if he can just go take the money from the account.
No, with all the proper documentation.
Yes.
to
Yes.
submit that
Yeah.
this money.
You get the
All
money.
right, but now, with that pre-need arrangement, when this gentleman did that, after he passed, and they were getting ready to do his funeral, they said, well, we need some family member or somebody that is responsible to make out the funeral arrangements again. So
Well-
they couldn't do the funeral arrangements according to what he signed the paper for. So they had to put it in the
That's
paper
strange.
if they're, that would seem strange to me too.
Right. How long
But
ago
you
was
know
this?
what was
Um,
missing with the sister just said, and I get it. What happened is they did it with my mother and her senior build. Do you have to have, just like if someone was sick and they had a certain age, you have to have someone that's in charge of the
It's
sign
called the
off.
next of kin. Right.
Well, it could be next of kin. It could be someone else, whoever they charge, to say
A power of attorney.
a power of attorney say that this can be procedure be done. I could discuss this information with the
Right.
person. Like you said, when we get older, we go back to a certain
Right.
state.
Right.
So sometimes you're not able to speak for yourself.
Right.
Sometimes you're not be able to communicate. But someone else can, if you trust them and you sign over the paperwork, they can communicate with your doctors or whatever. So
Right.
that same paper or that same information, this thing should be governed
Yes.
with the funeral parlor, because
Yes.
with that there, it covers the same amount of trust.
Right. Right.
So they would actually be able to say, okay, I'm working on behalf of this person because I have these papers and then my name is on
Yeah.
this, and this is what they asked to be done, and that's what we're gonna follow.
Right.
Because you have the paperwork that says that.
Right.
So that's all we will ask that you follow with the agreement that they just paid for.
Right.
No more.
So that paper that I told you guys to get signed and notarized, you make 2 copies. You keep one on you at all times, and you give one to someone you trust. Never your family,
Okay.
right? Because your family thinks on emotions when you pass.
Yes, yes.
Unless they Muslim, unless they go on their
If they're on their deen, that's different. But you have to be careful with them too, because they may give in. If, let's say for example, 2 brothers are Muslims, the mother, the father, they're not Muslims,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When a family member passes, especially a brother passes, that other sibling will be in such grief that they may just give in. They don't want to fight with the parents. Okay, go ahead, take him to the church. I've seen it,
I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it.
Yes.
right?
That happened with one of the imams, you know what I'm saying? It happened some years ago. It happened with one of the imams in North. You know what I'm saying? They had that, it was a big thing about that, you know what I'm saying? But it goes to show, you know, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, you know, think of death often. You know,
Yes,
he said that.
yes.
And he said, you know, one of the rules in the Sharia is that we make preparations for death.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot
There we
of
go.
times,
Mhm.
you know, in a lot of the masjids, we don't make preparations, you know, it's not being taught, we don't make so what happens, these situations happen, you know what I'm saying, and then we get caught out there with the GoFundMe because we haven't made preparation, and we didn't have enough in our bank accounts, you know, or enough on the credit cards, and nobody, and even if we had enough on the credit card, nobody don't even know our PIN numbers and stuff like they get in.
I see
you
this.
know what
I
I'm
see this
saying?
all the
You
time.
know,
I,
yeah.
I see this
I,
all
like
the
I
time.
told you, like you said, you prepared, and I appreciate that, really do from my heart, because every time, like I said, it's not that I do it, it's a reminder.
Yes.
I told each one of my babies, how do you bury your father? Oh, we're gonna bury so and so. Good. Repeat it. And and like I said, I always talk about death like you talk about life.
Right.
Why? Not because, I said, things happen. You get older. You can't change what's gonna happen.
Right.
But you can make me happy if you do what's right.
Yes.
So it's just, you know, it's just a point where I made it a stickler. Not because I'm Muslim. You know what I am.
Right.
Make sure everybody else knows. There's nothing changed.
You
The
know,
Sahabas walked around with their coffins.
You know, Prophet
Walked
Muhammad
around
also
with it.
said-
Oh, yeah.
Prophet Muhammad
Alhamdulillah.
also said that, he said, when he was talking, it came to my mind, he said, something, anybody could fill in, cause I know somebody ain't know it. In the morning, don't expect to live to the night,
Yes.
and in the night, don't expect to live in the morning. See, that, a lot of times, we take that for granted, man, we're
That's
gonna be
a
here.
deep,
But then he
deep
said
statement.
something else, he said, where's that, you know, you hope for the future too, it was something that
Yeah.
he had said, that
Yes.
you hope for the future,
Right.
you know, I forgot the hadith, I forgot what he said, but it's looking for, so you gotta reconcile those two and balance it out.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You gotta balance it out.
Absolutely.
Brother Ishmael, we got, about 25 more minutes.
No problem.
Just I wanted to ask you this.
Sure.
I would like for you to demonstrate, not now, but at another, maybe,
No
next
problem.
month, of how you actually wash the body.
Yes.
Maybe we can get a dummy,
A dummy,
a
yeah,
dummy,
yeah, yeah.
where you
Dummy.
can go through it, because
Yeah. Yeah. This would
you
be
said something
excellent.
that's key. We all should know how to do that.
Yes.
Or whether you want to or not, you should know how to do it,
Yes.
because you don't know when you might have to provide those services.
Right.
So,
And even if you want Imam Sab, you know, one day you can set up where you have a couple of people come to the funeral home,
right,
and I'll show them,
okay.
you know, show
This
them.
is good, this what the Master ID did, this is very good. And you know, I wanna get your number, inshallah.
Inshallah,
And
inshallah.
if you know, at the time, and I'm gonna try to give you a little something, you know, maybe we can get you a little something, cause I know this time, you say you have a lot of funerals and stuff like that, that's a lot.
Yeah,
running
it's
around,
a
you know,
lot.
you know
It's
what
a
I'm
lot.
Running around, it's a lot,
Especially in the winter,
you know.
it gets really high. You know, a lot of elderly people passes in the winter.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In the summer, a lot of young people passes, and a lot of violence in the summer.
Right.
Right before Ramadan and after Ramadan. During Ramadan, you don't see it.
Right.
It's very strange.
Yes, sir.
Very strange. But when you start doing these things, you understand that.
Remember he told Shaitan, I'm locking you up for 30 days.
Right,
Do you know
So
my kid?
whatever behavior the people get into in between that,
right.
and so we
There it
always
is.
reflect on that part too.
So that's why I said this. It strengthens your iman because you actually see. You actually see it. You actually
Do
see it.
you know brother I killed Martin? You know him? From
Okay.
Bergen Street? You know brother I
It
killed?
sounds very familiar.
Because he do a lot of janazas himself. I don't know if he know how, I don't know what he knows from, but I know he do a lot of janazas. I don't know if he know how to wash your body and all that, the rap. I don't know what he know, but I know he do a lot of funerals, a lot of janazas.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Essentially, you're giving us this information and you're connected to the funeral parlor. I'm just a suggestion. Like I said, I know that a lot of people, when, like you said, they couldn't afford it. Some of them use the free Islamic burial services, but I know it's a lot going on with the people there because
Right.
they still need donations to run their business.
So this is this free janaza service, when someone doesn't have the money and they pay, this is a good thing. But we have to understand this. We should leave that money for people who really can't afford it.
Yes, sir.
Say that again?
Go ahead, make it clear.
There's sources for free janazas, like they'll pay for the janazas, right? And I'm saying this humbly. I don't mean to offend anyone.
Yes, sir.
There are families out there that are taking advantage of this.
Yes,
They can afford it,
right,
and they choose not to afford it because there's a source where they can get money.
right.
This is not good. This is not good.
Right, right.
Pay for the janaza. We pay $50, $60, $100,000 for weddings, but we can't pay $4,000 for janaza.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
You know? We should not abuse these sources because there are actually Muslims out there who can't pay for it.
Right.
We shouldn't, run up the tab on these things. And it's not like it's free. We are actually donating money there.
Right.
Right? This money is not coming out of thin air. This money is coming from hard-working Muslims who understand that some Muslims can't afford it.
Yes, sir.
So this is their right on us.
Right.
Right? A Muslim who can't afford it, we have to afford it.
What is that term? You was talking earlier, you was saying how when a lot of countries, when the COVID hit, you said how they was afraid. So some people just didn't want to touch their body and all these different things. And you said, like, with yourself and your iman,